Then the next step, of course, you have to promote the product, having laws and enforcement, and those council authorities. After understanding all these issues, then you try to promote law and enforcement. There should be different kind of laws. Maybe Google can help me. I am not aware of these laws, but this kind of development that we seek instead of having biofuel. Although biofuel is good in sense that it catches CO2 and then you release again CO2, so it's balanced actually. Like in terms of the value of ecosystem, it reduces because you have to grow only monoculture instead of having traditional. So that we are feeling. So any addition, please.
Thank you very much.
I would just add something. We thought about using the waste of agriculture to make energy. That's why we can replace a little bit biofuel.
Yeah, we thought maybe agroforestry will have a lot of kind of organic waste coming from there, as well as tourism activity, like you will have hotels, you will have restaurants. So all of this organic waste should go to pioneer type of fuel production. In this case, fermentation. And this fermentation will go back, fertilizer, organic fertilizer will go back to agroforestry, and methane gas should be captured for to reduce the bill of electricity and so on. So that is possible.
Anyone else of the group wants to add something? If not, are there questions or comments from the other group?
Media comments. It's a good plan.
Okay, then I would like to invite you now to move over to the other table.
Okay.
Oh, we don't need to? Okay.
You can present.
Yes, we need to.
As you remember, earlier we presented a transition that took place from a very expensive water supply we estimate would cost between $8 and $9 million to a the same size but much less complexity one that will cost about $500,000, saving about $6.5 million. And the way that we propose doing that is changing from a model of timber exportation to a model of sustainable forest management. We have already completed a number of valuation studies that show that this model will increase the value over time. What we'd like to focus on are the policy instruments that we come up with that will help make this transition. The first one we think is important is the land tenure reform, because we want to make sure that we have a community-based natural resource management process in place, and this will ensure that we have better incentives for forest stewardship. The second is to promote alternative sustainable tourism with local families, homestays in this area to promote jobs that don't rely on timber harvest. The third is we're considering deliberate devaluation of trees through an injection of dye into some of the high-value trees. We think this will reduce the large amount of... Yes, we have a number of, as you know, Madam Secretary, some very high levels of illegal logging, especially the high value, also high ecological importance for habitat trees. We are proposing undertaking some dye with a specific new dye that devalues the trees no longer useful for timber, and we feel that would really help curb illegal logging. The next, we really want to see a strong environmental education reform. We think a specific dialogue that brings together downstream users with upstream stakeholders will help improve environmental awareness, also help understand the values of this transition to a sustainable forest management model. Next, we'd like to form some community trusts that focus on community-based organizations, community-based natural resource management. We feel that some kind of social organization will better allow stakeholders to promote some of the other models that we're working on. We understand that there is still illegal logging going on, even if our dye injection program is not successful. We'd like to see much stiffer penalties, not only increased fees, but actually mandatory jail time. Well, we'll get into the costs at another meeting.
Maybe just higher fines.
Yes, yes. We feel that some very clear policy guidance will be needed to implement these measures, so we would like to recommend that we form a task force to develop some clear policies. In And we are proposing a payment for ecosystem services that will utilize the textile industries, will have a small, modest fee that will help pay for some of the transition from the current forest model to sustainable forest management model. We see a short-term gap, and if I may, Madam Secretary, that we understand the short-term will result in some costs and decrease in benefits, but the long-term benefits will be immense, but we recognize that there's a gap. And therefore, we propose a short-term investment in jobs in natural forest enrichment for local communities that will help fill this gap for those who might otherwise not have employment. We propose that this will be funded by the costs avoided by having a reduced water plant. And the last one is that we have a multiple-use zone that will allow for sustainable shade-grown cocoa, and we'd like the government to promote a incentive program, market-based incentive program for the shade-grown. This means that we have several goals that would need to be changed in your government's plan. The first is revising the goals for forest export. We think that those should be reduced. We'd like to move to a model of high value, low volume. And sorry? Revenues over time we predict will increase by tenfold, but there will be a gap. Initially, we're looking at a longer term time scale of about 25 to 50 years. We understand that this will create...
jobs.
This will be promoting jobs. Yes, we promote mixed agriculture instead of monocultures to increase benefits. In cocoa, this will be a change to the development plan. We are proposing additional measures for pollution control, and our primary recommendation to the development plan is to change the scope of the water facility treatment and to shift the model to a sustainable forest management plan. And finally, we recommend more environmental education on sustainable finance, sustainable forestry management benefits in your development plans.
Any additional comments? Maybe when you say about revenues, we were hoping that maybe you move to a more sustainable forestry mixed agriculture type system that would get additional revenues from shade grown. Maybe also export.
She was really kind of rejecting diet to the trees. The normal way is to have a steam and go for some trees. That very easily is possible.
And the other team, what are you thinking about?
Myself. Strategy number 9.
It's okay, but also should think about short-term benefits, because most projects they try to think long-term benefits. And sometimes if you don't think about short-term benefits, that's very limited problem, and many things can collapse sometimes. So I think weakness here you should look also short-term benefits and what's constructed long-term.
I think it's supposed to be maybe people who will do next week to them, but there will be science who will say find out rates which will be more than them and will be income generated by the cocoa and also the income generated by increase in ecotourism. So I reckon that. That's what I wanted to get here.
You're gonna employ them to make diet.
The losers might be the actual timber companies.
Yeah, rather than the
Because they're sales.
That's why I question. What do you think that the stakeholders would agree with these changes?
But it's going to forget for the 45% of the voting population is subsistence farmers.
Yeah.
Who are your timber people? Are they multinational corporations? Are they other people from outside who are investors? Is that the great understanding?
Yeah, this is where evaluation study would come in handy. You can measure these values of jobs and ecotourism and benefits versus the short-term gains of intensive forestry, then you're painting comparative.
So again, it could be helpful to apply economic valuation in order to sharpen the arguments from different language of certifications. Okay. So usually the second part of this step would be to set up an action plan working and look who can what, looking at the time frame, because all of these really good ideas you developed, of course, cannot be implemented like in a short place. And again, we will have to step back to this criteria and maybe additional ones. So before the political viability, elections are coming up soon. So maybe we will need to prioritize some measures that can show an impact on a short time. And also the economic viability. Some of the measures have a cost, and we have to see where we can get the money from. So that's why it's so important to look at stakeholders to understand who can cooperate, who can assume part of the task, and we would recommend as the next step if we would apply it to the real world case, real setting, and to really start working on a working plan and see who can what resources next steps. Okay, so with this actually we will finish working. We will have a couple of more minutes in the plenary. And this is a really short wrap-up of what we have done today. But I think, I don't know how you feel, but it's amazing. Just remember when we started this morning, it was 8 hours ago. We did not know anything about Makul and about endowed province, and now you became experts and you made really good proposals to the development committee, and I'm sure they're going to consider a lot of your ideas. So please connect to the plenary.
But as we didn't get to go into the specifics of the measuring ecosystem services and evaluating ecosystem services, we're actually doing a conservation campus here tomorrow on measuring and valuing ecosystem services. So if you're interested, let me know. And I've got some flyers here. Some of you might already have one, some of you might already signed. But I'll put them back over and talk to you later.
Thank you. Okay, so looking again at the stepwise approach, remember our idea was to revise the development plan in order to identify risk and opportunity which are associated with dependency and impact on ecosystem services. We started with the scope, and actually I was kind of surprised because in the case of Indara, nobody proposed to broaden up the scope. Because actually if you look at the watershed and the pollution which is going on in the other province, with the textile industry and dairy farming, this is beyond the political boundaries. So maybe it would make sense also to provide some recommendations for the development committee to talk to the other province. Because basically the problems are caused over there. So we won't be able to solve everything within the boundaries of the province. We were screening like really rapidly and prioritizing ecosystem services in play, and then we would have done a rough assessment, a quick and dirty assessment of the current trends or the current status of the ecosystem services in play and the future trends. And as I told you, there are a lot of methods that could help you to do that. And of course, in a normal training, I would say in a 3 or 4 day training, we would have a close look at methods that can help you to assess ecosystem services. When talking about drivers of change, we started to look at stakeholders. So who is acting how, and how do people influenced by the way of managing the land on the provision of ecosystem services. That was made us in step 4, having a closer look at the institutional and cultural setting. We had this really nice role play, which I enjoyed a lot. But of course, if you want to apply this stepwise approach to reality, you would need to make a more detailed stakeholder assessment in order to really understand the framework and also look at the regulations and laws and all this stuff. In step 5, we were like kind of resuming or making a summary of all the information gathered, by basically the biophysical information and the socioeconomical information, and then we will start thinking about where and how to apply economic valuation in order to convert our message in a more understandable one for political decision makers. And there are quite some issues in the case of the lava current where you could apply economic valuation, but we were also talking about a risk associated to economic valuation, and that's why we would always recommend to really think about how to apply it, how to communicate what you're doing, because there's a lot of possible misunderstanding also related to economic valuation. And then we started to look at entry points for policy making and possible tools and methods which could help to improve ecosystem management and therefore the well-being of people and the viability of the development, the economic development of the region. So, of course, this 6-step approach, it aims to give you a systematic manner to approach this. It's not a blueprint, it's not a recipe, and you will always have to adjust it to reality. Maybe you will have to move backwards sometimes when new information arises in order to include it. Maybe you, in some cases when you already have information available, you can just skip one step. So it's not a recipe. But it helps to address the mainstreaming of ecosystem services into decision-making processes in a systematic way. And yeah, maybe one final message is that you shouldn't aim for a perfect solution, but for a good one, because you can always go improving and see it as a process. With this, I would like to finish. Yes?
Can I just raise one thing? Which,
Yes, of course.
the project we're doing at the moment, the step which is giving us a lot of trouble is in step 5, because the thinking is that we need to go to stakeholders to actually make choices of which strategy we're going to go for. So we're trying to present a number of different strategies and then get stakeholders to make a decision.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
And I think it's
Yeah, of course. Of course, once you have identified possible solutions, you should always consult them again with stakeholders, look at distributional issues, who's carrying the cost, who's carrying the benefits of this, really important. Yes?
Quite often, as such, that you can use the stakeholders in the first place to embed the scenarios, so you have the stakeholder consultation to generate scenarios and then you get evidence kind of right at the beginning, and then evidence then predicts what's options.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to read the guide tonight. Everybody's going to read it, and you will find a lot more information and hints and tips, and also tools and methods related to these steps. Just one more remark on the schedule. As I told you, this training course is designed for 2 to 4 days. So this was really a snapshot of the training. And usually we would be like at the end of the first day, we would be only finishing exercise 2. So there is a lot more room for discussion. We would invite experts to provide inputs, listen to real-world cases. Yeah, the time for group work especially would be a lot longer. Yes. Now I have one more thing to do on behalf of ISVN, which is this evaluation sheet. I will ask you to fill it out and then hand it back to me, or maybe you can help us to, after they finished it, to hand it back to the office. The other thing is, if in case you need a certificate of this course, I would like to ask you to write me a message, because then I can prepare the certificate and send it to you. That would be the easiest way. I'm going to upload the materials or the handouts, the presentations, and all the stuff on the web space of this conservation campus. Everything will be available there.
Is that obvious on the website?
I don't know.
I have haven't noticed
Okay.
the web space of the conservation campus.
Yes. You go to the session, which is at the top.
Go to this session.
Yes.
Click on the section, and then go at the top.
In case you are not able to find a send me message, I can send it to you. Another thing, if you are interested in applying the training in your country or your organization, or even becoming a trainer, let me know. We are looking for new trainers. And I think that's it. One more thing, because we have this official evaluation sheet, but I would like to ask you just before we leave for a small feedback round, and I have 2 questions. And the first one is how you feel, or how have you been feeling during the day, and the second is what's your take-home message, just really briefly. But yeah, maybe we can start with you, with the governor.
Well, I enjoyed it very much, and I think we seem to get a lot done during the course of the day, and I think it was fun. Something from one day. I mean, my take-home message is, because we already work in a project of a very similar nature, I'm really interested